My name is Bill Herron. I am a corporate executive, salesperson. I raise capital for a private equity fund. I've been in the financial field for 30 plus years. I'm also a licensed therapist. I've had my license for 14 years. I work with pretty much every kind of demographic. I have a weekends and weekday evening practice. And I am, like yourself, a researcher on self. And I've been studying relationships for 24 years, put a book out at the end of last year called Waking Up Marriage, Finding Truth in Your Partnership.
Bill, my brother, welcome to the Jesse T Show.
Thank you so much for having me. My wife says, I am incapable of small talk. So I'm in the right spot.
Same. And you know, I already know this is going to be multiple conversations, and we're going to do some great things outside of this podcast together. So give us a little context. Who are you? What do you do?
Yeah, thanks so much. So I've been in the financial field really on and off since Reagan was in office, late 80s. I started in 86. After about 10 and a half years, Jess, I had a little bit of a kind of opening. I started meditating. I quit the job. I traveled. I've been to 46 countries. I came back. I got a master's in social work. And since 2007, I've been full-time back in the financial field, but I'm also a licensed therapist, which means in the evenings, weekday evenings and weekends, I am counseling folks, holding space for them. But my day job is sales. And, people laugh, like sales and therapy I don't see how they relate. It's all about relationships, as you know.
Yes.
And so it's all about developing a trust through vulnerability. In the professional world, it's a different tone and texture to vulnerability, but we're establishing a relationship. If I have a good product, I've got a really good product now. I work for a family office. And then in the evening, in the weekends, when I'm working with folks that are going through a rough time, there's very little I haven't been through. I've been meditating for 25 years. I've been on my it's a continual journey. I feel like I'm a researcher on relationships, which is really just a researcher. I'm a scientist of self, because all a relationship is you and I are in a relationship. You're in a relationship with your grandfather, your grandmother, whatever it is. Other people are going to just kick up more of Jess, kick up more of Bill. That's all it is. It's the word relationship, Jess, comes from Latin relatus, which means to carry back. So a relationship, what it does is my wife says something, she acts dismissive, she gives me her hairy eyeball. It kicks up something in me, kicks up that 14-year-old, kicks up that 8-year-old. I feel less than, it's kicking up my self-worth. It's not her fault. I take that emotion, I carry it back to my cave. As Carl Jung says, all the treasures of life are in the cave, in self. I find out what that is. Oh, that's my 8-year-old watching my mom be dismissive of my dad. Oh, that's my 14-year-old being dropped like a hot rock. Oh, here's the insight. Now I carry that insight back to the altar of the relationship. Could be with my boss, could be my daughter, whatever it is. I've carried that insight back. And if that other person's willing to develop more relationship through that vulnerability, I share that and the relationship goes deeper. Yes. It's only through vulnerability, and it's only through self does a relationship move. I do that in the business world. It's a different tone to it. I'm not going to share my deepest longings, but it's the exact same thing. I still cold call every day. I'm 56 years old, and I love the interaction. I love the energy of it. That's what it's all about. As Robert Monroe said, who studied out-of-body experiences for 45 years, he's got the Monroe Institute in Virginia. His daughter runs it. Best book, probably top 5 book ever written, called Ultimate Journey. He wrote 3. He says, all we take with us in this lifetime, Jess, is our shared moments. All we take is shared moments. So if I'm not giving more in every shared moment, then I'm holding something back. And this is the exact same research and data that came out of all the research done on out-of-body experiences, out of near-death experiences. Near-death experiences, people have these, they go to the light and then they come back and they all say, all it was when I had this experience was that I've got a movie reel of my entire life. Each moment, all we have to do is put out as much as we possibly can in that shared experience. And what holds us back is fear, is I'm not good enough. It's that sense of self. And the more we work on, you know what, I'm just going to give everything in this moment, life enriches, life deepens. And that's really what it is. That's what the research shows. And we all know we're holding something back often all the time, right? I'm just not going to say it. You know what? I feel so strongly about that, but I don't want to hurt anybody. Shared moments. That's all we have with us.
Brother, like, you're preaching to my soul right now, because I've come to find in my life's journey eternal truths, and an eternal truth is time is the most precious commodity that we can never make more of.
Yeah.
You can make more money. You can make more homes. You can make more assets, but you can't make more time.
Yeah.
And so once you understand time, you start doing different things with your time.
Absolutely.
And shared experiences is a huge thing to incorporate into your time, and seeking out journeys and moments. But the other side of time in that vein are relationships. So if time's the most important commodity, relation's the most important currency. And for me, and it's like we've known each other. Our souls have known each other for eternity.
Without a doubt.
And I can't wait to see where our journey leads. And this is our relationship. You can see in real time brewing and building over a podcast. But the relationships that I've called into my life, I could die a happy man now. Like the whole thing of like surround yourself with 5 people. I could show you your future, or I could tell you how your life is. My life is fucking beautiful, brother.
Mm-hmm.
And it's full of color. And it wasn't always that way. When I was young, I was seeking things and trying things and, things that weren't working out. But over time, I started crafting and whittling down what I wanted my ideal life to look like. It has nothing to do with money. The money comes. The money's a byproduct of happiness and hard work and like relationships. But the thing that's the most important is what you do with your time and who you do it with.
Absolutely. And we were talking before the show started. Vulnerability and opening one's heart is the only way home. And what holds men back especially is that boy heart that wants to open, that wants to weep, that has these longings. It's the boy heart that our adult self, our rational self, the 56-year-old self in me, that all these things I should have, I could have, I want to hold back. The reason why you're finding and feeling this peace, Jess, is because you've opened up. You've cracked open the heart.
Yes.
And that's the whole game. And it's the hardest thing. And the first time a man cries as an adult, it's so overwhelming because we're not used to it. It's like this foreign land. We're like,
we don't know how to do it. We don't know how to do it.
Exactly. And the first time I meditated was 25 years ago on St. Patrick's Day. I was living in London. I was 31 years old. I was really unhappy in the financial field, making a bunch of dough, but miserable. Yes. And I sat for that first time. And the tears, my body was weeping. There was no content to it. So I always say to folks, especially men, if you sit quietly long enough, just long enough, 10, 15 minutes, you might have to do it over and over again. Something's going to come up, an old memory, an old sensation, an old longing for that dog, your grandfather that died in the 80s, whatever it is. And there's a little drop of rain, and that's the tear on the desert floor. And that's the open heart. And the Buddha says, if you soften up enough, if you meditate enough, if you sit long enough, a butterfly lands on a flower. This is the Buddha. A butterfly lands on a flower and you weep from joy.
Yes.
You weep from this tenderness and the sadness. The Native Americans, the old Native Americans had a ceremony called lamenting. Yes. And the old men would get around. And they would weep and weep. And people are like, what are they weeping for? Because life is so precious. And that's what you have found, Jess. At 39, this powerful journey you've been on, which has just begun, and it's transforming, and you're transforming other people just by your presence. It's because your heart is so open, it's so tender, and you can feel other people's lives. When you open up and feel your own sadness and longing, it's so clear you can feel other people's sadness and longing, and you're holding space for people's deepest longings. That's what the warrior heart does. It's your boy heart carrying the 39-year-old body soul.